Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Pope Francis has ended his first Africa trip, which took him to 3 countries. Francis flew out of the Central African Republic early Monday afternoon after celebrating Mass before a huge gathering at the National Stadium in the capital, Bangui. Earlier at the main mosque in Bangui, the Pope said Christians and Muslims are brothers and there is no reason they cannot coexist.
Christians and Muslims and members of traditional religions have lived peacefully for many years.
Well, he said his visit to the country, which has seen political conflict and clashes between Christians and Muslim militants, will be incomplete without meeting with the Muslim community. In his message at a Mass on Sunday, Pope Francis called on the country's warring parties to lay down their weapons and support efforts to end sectarian violence. Conflict. Ahead of his arrival, President Catherine Samba-Panza said people see Pope Francis as a messenger of peace and hoped he would inspire a national push for Central Africans to accept each other. The CAR has endured nearly 3 years of violence since a mostly Muslim rebel group, the Seleka, overthrew President Francois Bozize in March 2013. Killings by the Seleka triggered the rise of mainly Christian militias known as the Anti-Balaka. Well, for more on the Pope's visit and his concluded tour of Africa, VOA's Chris Stein joins me live now via phone from Bangui. Chris, first, there were concerns about security in Central African Republic during the visit of the Pope. How are things?
Well, those concerns were definitely founded. I mean, when I arrived here last week, the city was tense. Certain neighborhoods still had, and they still have almost at all times, militiamen guarding the entrances and exits. And that creates a situation where there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of tension within the city and the feeling that things can change at any moment. Fortunately, for the Pope's visit, there were no, as far as I know, major incidences, security breaches. Security officials told me that the thing they were most concerned about was crowd control. There were large crowds greeting him and outside many of his public events. But all in all, I'd say none of those fears came to pass, and everything mainly went well.
Now, in terms of the 2 communities in Central African Republic, significantly the Muslim and Christians, did they see the significance of the Pope's visit in the same way? What are you hearing?
I mean, yeah, they did. I mean, for the Christians, obviously, there's a large Catholic population in this country, and many, were very excited to see the Pope for obvious reasons. Many people who are Protestant as well turned out to welcome him. He's one of the most famous people in the entire world, bar none, and so I think that there's a lot of excitement around that over everybody. From the Muslims' perspective, the Muslim community in Bangui is much smaller than it has been and are fairly endangered, although there's tit-for-tat clashes between both sides. And I think that they were hopeful that he would, help their situation. The mosque in the TK5 neighborhood has been visited a number of times by dignitaries, perhaps most notably by Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General. So Pope Francis is not the first person to come by, but he was perhaps among the most profile, if not the most high profile, and hopes were high because of that.
Well, Chris, thank you very much. VOA's Chris Stein reporting live from Bangui, the capital of the Central African Republic. Now, Pope Francis concluded his first Africa tour Monday after spending 5 days in Kenya, Uganda, and the Central African Republic. He touched on subjects from family values to climate change to poverty, but his overall theme was peace and reconciliation. VOA's Jill Craig covered the visit and has a look at the highlight from Nairobi.
From the moment Pope Francis touched down in Kenya, he was greeted like a superstar.
I mean, I'll be just happy, at least for the first time the Pope is coming to Africa, and I have the experience to see him come to Africa. It's just nice, it's just fantastic.
In Kenya, he visited the Nairobi slum of Kangemi, where he denounced the injustice of substandard living conditions for the poor. And he called for a transformational agreement on climate change at global talks opening in Paris Monday, one that would also fight poverty.
Sería triste y me atrevo a decir, hasta catastrófico.
It would be sad, and I dare say even catastrophic, were particular interests to prevail over the common good and lead to manipulating information in order to protect their own plans and projects.
Para proteger sus propios proyectos.
In Kampala Saturday, the Pope said Mass for an estimated 300,000 people at the Martyrs' Shrine in Namugongo. He urged people to honor the legacy of these martyrs by taking care of the elderly, the poor, and the abandoned.
This is the third Pope that our country is receiving, and so this is a great blessing. It shows that our faith is very strong, but our struggles are also being recognized.
And on Sunday, Pope Francis brought his message of peace, along with heavy security, to the Central African Republic, his first visit to a conflict zone. A rebel coup followed by sectarian conflict has killed thousands of people there and displaced nearly 1 million in the past 3 years. Pope Francis visited a refugee camp and later said Mass at the cathedral, where he called for fighters to lay down their weapons and instead arm themselves with love and mercy.
This represents a future of lasting peace at home here in CAR, because in my whole life I had never seen the Pope, and my country needed for him to come because of the current situation. His arrival touches me deeply.
Pope Francis met with Bangui's few remaining Muslims Monday at the Central Mosque. He told them Christians and Muslims are brothers and should reject violence, especially violence committed in the name of religion. A message many Africans hope will resonate long after the Pope's departure. Jill Craig, VOA News, Nairobi.